Good morning, everybody. Whoops, whoops, whoops. There, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're having coffee with you guys this morning, so come on in. Make yourself comfortable wherever you are and have a coffee or your favorite beverage. And this is Jacqueline's Orchids, because quite often people get mixed up because my name's Carolyn, but Jacqueline's Orchids is named from half Jack and half Carolyn, Jack Olin. So Jacqueline's Orchids, because without him, a lot would not happen. In fact, let's first welcome, in case our granddaughter's watching, we have our Grandpa Grandma cups with coffee. And hey ho hi-oh, waiting for your visit. Okay, so first we're going to kind of break the ice and show you the transportation box. So, whoop, there goes the coffee. So, I've painted the whole box with 2 coats of latex interior gloss, like baseboard paint. And so I put 1 coat on, let it dry real good, because you know if you paint cardboard, what happens is it'll get soggy. So I did 1 coat, let it dry, put the 2nd coat, and then I painted an orchid on this side, and I did a little decoupage on this side, and I took some pictures of our orchids, and these all slide in. So when we bring our orchid home, we put it in the box, and then...
And if it's too tall, you can take the top off.
Yeah, and if it's too tall, the top comes off. So then they just go
Show
down.
the top coming off.
Okay, I'll show you. No, the box is top, right?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. The top comes off. So then, if it's a real tall orchid, wouldn't that be wonderful?
Or it could be a short orchid in a tall pot.
Or it could be a short orchid in a tall pot. There we go. So I just thought I'd show you that. So that's one project being finished. And then, as you know, Jack and I in the past, we have done some chicken wire projects. We've got the lady riding the bicycle, we got a great big lamp in front of the house, and we got Jimmy the guitar player. Well, we had this idea of doing a big eagle full size. Being we're stuck in the house more and summer's coming, so Jack has already started the skeleton, and this may not be finished.
It's barely started.
It's barely started, and my fingers are kind of not very good, so you know it's a long process.
See, the joint for the wings goes about here. The joint for the rear legs goes about here. The tailbone actually stops about here for the dimensions I'm using, but we might leave that. It doesn't matter because this is all tail feathers after that anyway. And but there's a whole lot to put in here yet. But it's a start.
It's a start.
And then I'm going to put some rings here for eyes. I'm going to drop here, and little small holes for the nose over here. And so then she's going to wrap it with chicken wire.
I will do the chicken wire, making feathers out of chicken wire. It's actually quite relaxing, but hard on the hands. So anyway, that's to come. That's going. And right now we're here because we're going to have a question and answer.
She couldn't ask herself her own questions, so that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, he's going to ask the questions, which are like your questions, and I'm going to try and answer them. So this ought to be interesting.
These are the questions she gave me. I didn't
think he was going to show that. I typed out some really nice questions, and he goes, these sound too official and textbook. So I don't know what he's done, but he's rewritten all the questions. So here we go. Number 1.
Oh, okay. In regards to fertilizer, how can I create a natural environment for my orchids?
Wow. Yes, because the orchids are growing in the jungle and they get fertilized just naturally when the rain comes through the trees, and bird and monkey or whatever in the trees all comes down with the rain, and all the natural fertilizers occurring, they get it regularly. So they get a week solution of fertilizer regularly. Remember the week. So the only way to kind of, now we've got these orchids home and their roots aren't free in the air anymore, they're in a pot. We have to come across a fertilizer method that is part natural and part your bottle fertilizer. And that's what my water schedule does, which I will attach underneath this video in my comments section, and I'll pin it so it stays under the video. So,
how do I choose and use fertilizer for orchids?
okay, you get to the store and you see all these different bottles of orchid fertilizer. And lots of people living in different places, they tell me, oh, we can't get that fertilizer we use. What can I use? And everybody, because of where you live, might be able to purchase different ones, and you can go online. But the first thing, as far as your bought fertilizer goes, is try and get one that is for orchids. And I'm going to say that, and then I'm going to break my rule right away, because when I first started out, and I still use it, I have plant prod. But if you read the fine print on the back of the plant prod fertilizer, it does say for orchids. It's for a lot of plants, but it does say for orchids. So,
Go ahead, you don't have to hurry.
what else did I want to say?
Is that all you got?
Also, you'll notice that the 3 numbers on the front, the N, P, K, the nitrogen, and the phosphorus, and the potassium, they're always there, they're always the same. And when you are fertilizing, you have to fertilize to go with the life cycle that orchid is in at the moment. So, is it in a growth? Is it in blooming? Is it resting? Then we change to suit those circumstances. So I guess that's it for that question.
Well, what's the advantage? What advantage is nitrogen to my orchids?
Well, nitrogen come spring, that's when I always want the high first number, which is the nitrogen, because that first of all, fertilizer is not a food for the orchids. The food for the orchids comes from the sunlight and photosynthesis. So the nitrogen just helps the plant make its own food. And during the growth season, when the leaves are growing, we want to make sure we have the higher number first in the growing season of nitrogen, and not the middle number. The lower number can be higher, the third number can be higher than the middle number, but you want that high nitrogen for your growth period of your orchids, so it can help the plant make its energy for the next season. It needs the light more than it needs the fertilizer.
What advantage is phosphorus to my orchid?
Phosphorus is what I've been using since I think I started when I saw spikes coming. I started the high middle number of phosphorus because that helps give energy towards the blooming of your flowers. And later I'm still using it because it will also help them hold their flowers longer, not die off so quick, and just keep that growth of the flowers going until spring arrives. And they should be in bloom when you bloomed your own for 4 or 5 months. That's the beauty of our orchids.
What advantage is potassium to your orchid?
Potassium is your third number, and that's the most often, when you look at your bottle, the people don't think about that potassium, that last number, but it's forgotten, but it shouldn't be because it's very important. And for my water schedule, I add extra potassium with the seaweed fertilizer, because the seaweed fertilizer will give your plant lots of potassium to aid it. Some people will use...
Don't get into the next question.
Oh, I better not get in the next question. Just a minute. Right, here's the most important thing. The last number helps the plant deal with stress from repotting, stress from insects, stress from high temperatures, or any stress on that plant. Like when you repot it and you change your media.
Or smelly neighbors, maybe.
That high third number helps the plant deal with that stress. That is very important.
Other than fertilizer, where can you get potassium for your plants?
Okay, lots of people, they send me, can I use banana tea? Yes, you can. There's potassium in that. Now, I haven't used potassium. There's a couple methods. Some people dry them and crunch it up and make a powder and put it in that way. Some people soak the leaves in water, but I sort of didn't want to cut my media, so I haven't done it. I'm sure it's good. I've seen proof of it, but what I added to the water schedule was the seaweed extract, because there, plus a lot of other things, we are getting our extra potassium.
What will help to get more leaves to store energy for the next year's blooms?
That's important, and if you don't supply enough light for your orchids in the growing season, and temperature also. Warm temperatures brings on growth, longer day brings on growth, and plus your nitrogen fertilizer, your other fertilizers you're using, but the signals of light and temperature bring on growth. And you want to make sure that that temperature isn't getting above 90. If it gets above 90, the growth will slow down. And if it gets too low, like below 60, it will slow down. So during the growth period, it likes that nice summer type temperature, but it can cool down at the evening, but during the day, and it wants lots of light, but not direct light. Oh, come on, Maggie. There.
That one?
Yeah, that's pretty.
If more is not better in fertilizer, then what is?
Less. Quite often on your bottles of fertilizer, the instructions will give you amount to use. I quarter it. I quarter everything. Less is more. Some people don't fertilize their plants too well. Why? Because they're probably getting the right light and the right temperatures at the right times. But what what our fertilizers do, it's just a little crutch. It's just aiding them to be that much healthier and disease resistant. So, what was that question again?
Oh, holy smokes. Is more not better in fertilizer than?
Oh
than
yeah.
what is?
So I quarter. Some people have, but you know, if you start putting too much, you can actually stunt the growth of your orchid. You'll see the leaves are coming smaller and kind of scrunching up on themselves. They might look the right color, but they're just not. They're not stretching out because you can actually put too much.
I tend to overwater. Why?
Yeah.
How's that check?
That is a serious problem. A lot of people, especially new people, they think they've got this tropical plant and it needs lots of water. And that's not true. And orchids growing in bark, I grow mine just in bark, are actually living under fairly dry conditions. Whenever I give it water, it runs through quickly. Nothing can rot in that media because it's draining. It's draining really good and medium. And I always plant my orchids a little bit higher, so where the leaves come and join into the plant, it's the ends of the plant, the leaves, and are not in the surface. And also, if you're adding moss or something to the top of your bark, I don't do that, but that also, if that stays wet a lot, that will also help cause it. So it's fluffiness with the moss when it's used. And the bark drains. I've never had crown rot because there's always a good flow of moisture. And I always water in the morning, and after I water, I have fans on, helping them dry out.
My new plant, I brought it home and it looks great and it's full of bloom, but I know it's packed tight for shipping. What should I do first?
Yeah, I know. You've got that orchid and you watch my videos and it says I repot them ASP right away. And you go, but it looks so nice. And you read everywhere on the internet, the blooms, the blossoms are gonna all fall off. And do you know, all the years that I've had orchids since 2014 or something like that, I have never lost all the blossoms. The most I ever lost was 2 or 3. So we've gotten even better at it by our methods of how we repot our orchid. But the problem is when you get that orchid home, I always take it out the pot, give it lots of air, pull it, that moss, and then you can sit it in a pot with holes, just how it came, but let the air to those roots. They need the air. It is too compacted in there. If it stays like that, they will rot. And some people say, well, I've never repotted mine and it's growing fine. And I'll say, like, does it have lots of aerial roots? Because it's probably those roots coming out of the media that's keeping that orchid alive, not the ones in compacted moss. They're not getting air, they can't do their job. So sometimes I get talking and I forget what I'm talking about. Sort of. Did I answer that?
I think you got it, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, my orchid, the leaves are turning black and falling off. What's that about?
If all your leaves are turning black and falling off, I would say your inside your pot is too wet and you are getting root rot, possibly crown rot. So the best way to figure out how much water is too much and how much is not enough is by getting to know your orchid. And the only way to get to know your orchid is to repot it how we do it on our channel. And then maybe 3 weeks after you've repotted it, just before you water it, take it out the pot, check the media. Is that media still feeling damp? You probably don't have to water for another day. If it's real dry, then you'll probably have to water sooner. And you can adjust that by the type of pots you use, and we'll talk about that more on another day. So, did we do it?
That's it.
You know, if you have any questions or you want us to do this again, just send questions after in the comments section, and we'll try to answer them. And
what?
I don't know. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, I'd probably reword the questions.
So, thanks for joining us, and we're gonna just finish
Adios.
our coffee, and we'll see you next time.